To use groundwater as a resource, we have to get to it. So we can drill down to the groundwater and set up a well, or there can be a spring that is flowing out of a hill slope and you can just use the water as it comes out. Drilling down into the aquifer to get water can be kind of low tech. You can use a auger system and set up a well there. Or you can use a drill rig. So this is like a truck that has a drill on it. As it's going down the road, it would be like this, and then it would raise it up and then drill down. And then set up a system after they have tapped into the aquifer and they get enough water flow. To put a pump down into the well, encase the well, and get water. There can be problems with that. If you mine that too much, you get what's called drawdown, and you get a cone of depression around that well. So this is a cone of depression, a big one. Here's a little one. They pump too much, they could get one big cone of depression, and it can really mess up the regional aquifer. There's a special kind of aquifer called an artesian aquifer, and it's special because you don't need a pump. The water is under pressure. So look at the diagram here. Above and below that aquifer layer, there are aquicludes and impermeable layers. The aquifer in the middle is under pressure because it has that slant to it, and pressure down on that water makes it come up out of the wells. So these are flowing artesian wells. A standpipe would be one that doesn't flow so much, but the water comes up to the surface. And then this one's too close to the surface, so it's a non-flowing artesian well. In order for us to use the water that we get from underground, we oftentimes will create kind of a fake artesian well where we'll put water up into a tank, and then it'll be, because of gravity, that water will flow out of the tank and then it'll go up into the homes in the area. So water comes out of the tank and it's going to go up into the homes. Depending on the height of the tank, it will give you more or less water pressure. A spring, this would be a spring, looks like a wetland area with water just coming out of the surface. In that area, they're kind of easy to locate. The ground will be mushy or wet. It might be flowing water on the surface. There's hydrophilic vegetation. That's just plants that like their roots to be wet. Perennial wetland would be an area where there's always, my startup disk is still full. The soil would be saturated, the wetland would last year round, the ground wouldn't freeze because there's warm water flowing out all the time, and it may add to the stream flow. So finding a spring can be good. Using a spring is usually a good idea. You want to have it tested, but the water would be probably clean, and the flow would be pretty steady and free. You don't have to drill for it. One special kind of groundwater is an oasis. This would be something that happens in the desert where you have the structural geology here. So we have anticlines and synclines. And within that anticline, there is an exposed aquifer. And so water would come out onto the surface of the desert. So if you know the underlying geology, you may be able to find an oasis in the desert. They also can form along the edges of faults where there's an impermeable layer to hold that water up.